this is Don Everly of the Everly Brothers.
And this is Mark Goodyear with a special show dedicated to Don and his brother Phil. Welcome to the Everly Brothers, Perfect Harmony. For the next hour, we're playing some of the greatest music in pop history. The huge outpouring of emotion at the death of Phil Everly was a reminder of the incredible musical legacy of the Everly Brothers, the first group to bring a country sound into rock and roll, with countless classic 45s, some of them ballads, some up-tempo, but all featuring their trademark harmonies, wonderful melodies, and some fantastic guitar playing. So to mark the release of the new Very Best Of compilation album, featuring all their best-known tunes, we've got an Everly's celebration for you. You'll be hearing brand new interviews with Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues.
Right from like 1957, it just struck home with me.
Kiki Dee.
The first song really that I remember hearing is Bye Bye Love, and I was 10 years old.
Gilbert O'Sullivan.
I remember I charmed the lady who was in charge of our group by singing Dream, Dream. All I have to do is dream.
Plus Alan Clark of the Hollies, Colin Bluntstone of the Zombies, Rick Wakeman, and more. Also how their music touched the lives of everyday Everly's devotees, and a rare chance to hear the memories of Don Everly himself. Don Everly was born in Kentucky in 1937, 2 years before Phil's birth in Chicago, and showbiz was in the boy's blood from the very beginning, as Don remembers.
Problems, problems, problems all day long.
I had been working in it already with my mother and father, and well, myself too. I was on radio when I was 7 years old as Little Donnie, a little radio station in Iowa, and had a 15-minute show on Saturdays. And I did that for years, or it seemed like years, 2 years I did it. Right? And then became the Everly Family. We were working as that for years until we made it on records.
Worries, worries pile up on my head. Woe is me, I should have stayed in bed. Can't get the car, my marks ain't been so good. My love life just ain't swinging like it should.
My high school teacher called me in right before I was graduating. He says, Don, what are you going to do? You're going to go to college? And I had never, ever said out loud that I wasn't going to go to college. And I said, well, no, I'm going to go to Nashville and get on the Grand Ole Opry. And he said, well, then I'll graduate. He says, otherwise you'd have to go to summer school. My grades were terrible. They were 3 A's and 2 F's. I was doing good in art and mechanical drawing and things like that, but I was failing everything else. I wasn't even doing the homework. I quit doing that even. So I graduated. He said, I'll graduate. So I graduated and I left for Nashville the next day.
When their first record contract with Columbia ended in failure, the Everly Brothers really did have problems. But they stuck to their guns, got a new deal with Cadence in early 1957, and started to make history from their very first release for them. Rock and roll was everywhere, and soon the Everlys were too. Back in Britain, some future stars were listening and loving it, like Justin Hayward.
I heard it right from the beginning, right from Bird Dog or whatever it was, Claudette, or right from like 1957. It just struck home with me. And their guitar sound and the way they went about it, the way they looked. I like the kind of look of that time. It just seemed to work at the smart kind of look that they had. And for me, they taught me how to... It was Phil. I later learned that it was Phil who taught me how to do harmony. And it's something that you do naturally, but it was just there, and he made it seem so simple, and I understood it because of Phil, and I understood the whole music thing.
And Kiki Dee.
The first song really that I remember hearing is Bye Bye Love. I think it was their first hit, and I was 10 years old. And I'd already started getting into music because my older brother, who was 7 years older than me, was a bit of a rock and roller, you know, and he was playing me Fats Domino and Jerry Lee Lewis and all these amazing American artists. So, yeah, that would have been the first time I heard them, really.
Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna cry. Bye-bye love, bye-bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my love, goodbye. There goes my baby with someone new. She sure looks happy, I sure am blue. She was my baby till he stepped in. Goodbye to romance, that might have been. Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna cry. Bye-bye love, bye-bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my love, goodbye. I'm through with romance, I'm through with love, I'm through with counting the stars above. And here's the reason that I'm so free. My loving baby is through with me. Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna cry. Bye-bye love, bye-bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my love, goodbye.
Bye Bye Love exploded onto the American pop charts in the spring of '57, and the echo was heard around the world. It was in the UK top 10 soon afterwards, with a sound that also hit home to young record buyers of the time, such as Everly's Collector, Roland J.
Their early stuff was very much of their period. They were, if you like, the personification of double tracking, which was used an awful lot in the early rock and roll. And here we had two guys that were literally double tracked because they were a pair, and their sounds just sort of got to me.
And Phil and Don's follow-up single was even more of a sensation. The lyric, about a teenage romance, was quite racy for the time, and that had consequences, as Don remembers.
We played Boston, touring about this in the 90s, and a couple of times, and the mayor, not the mayor, but the people brought us in to work the show there, had police escorts and everything, and sang a song. I said, you know, this song was banned here? They applauded, of course, and then we said it, but it was banned in Boston.
Back in England, Justin Hayward couldn't get enough of it, and he would later learn one of the secrets of the record from fellow Everly's enthusiast Bruce Welch of The Shadows.
We did Wake Up Little Susie. It was just around his house when we played Wake Up Little Susie. And the natural way to do Wake Up Little Susie is to up and down stroke, like that. He said, no, you watch. He said, I saw them do it. And it's all downstrokes. And he's right, it absolutely is. It's these little details that are really important.
Wake up, little Susie, wake up. Wake up, little Susie, wake up. We've both been sound asleep. Wake up, little Susie, and weep. The movie's over, it's 4 o'clock, and we're in trouble deep. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up, little Susie. Well, what are we gonna tell your mama? What are we gonna tell your pop? What am I gonna tell our friends when they say, ooh la la, wake up, little Susie. Wake up, little Susie. Well, I told your mama that you'd be in by 10. Well, Susie, baby, looks like we goofed again. wake up, little Susie, wake up. The movie wasn't so hot, it didn't have much of a plot. We fell asleep by Goose's cooked our reputation. He shot, wake up, little Susie, wake up, little Susie. Well, what are we gonna tell your mama? What are we gonna tell your pop? What are we gonna tell our friends when they say, ooh la la, wake up, little Susie, wake up, little Susie.
Soon there would be another absolute all-time Everly's classic, again written by the team of Felice and Boudleaux Bryant. And you have to try and picture the British stars of the next generation as kids in 1958, having their lives changed by this record, as these stories prove. First of all, from a young chap called Ray O'Sullivan, who later changed his first name to Gilbert.
The most interesting story is when I was little, I must have been 10, 11, I think. When my father had died and my mother's bringing up 6 kids, there's these opportunities come up for families to send their children to a place for a week where they could go, they get sent on this kind of holiday. And I was chosen with other kids in Swindon to go on this kind of free holiday up in, and it was on the River Thames, so it must have been up near Henley. And I remember I charmed the lady who was in charge of our group by singing Dream, Dream, All I Have to Do Is Dream, because that was the hit at the time. So I sang that. I seem to have charmed her because she sat me on her knee more often than she did anybody else. So from that time, I've always loved the Everly Brothers.
Then there was Kiki Dee.
What's interesting about them is they sort of seem to cross pop, country, rockabilly, rock and roll. They seem to be all things in a way. The thing that stood out to me, apart from loving the songs, which are all very melodic and catchy for a 10-year-old girl, you know, that first one, is the blend of their voices was so fantastic. And I just learned to harmonise. I just realised that I could do it quite instinctively. I used to harmonise with my sister, and she was good enough a singer to stay on the melody when I harmonised, because often if you harmonise with someone who's doing the melody, they go off the melody and join you on the harmony. Yeah, we used to sing things like Dream, which is one of my favourite ballads from them. And there's certain songs, if you were lying in bed at night, that you could recall them. And actually, when I knew I was speaking to you, I thought I'll have a look online at how many songs I could remember, and they had so many hit records. When I was a little girl, I used to sing All I Have to Do Is Dream, and you know when you're silly when you're young, I used to sing Only Trouble Is Cheese Whiz, which was this cheese product that was on the market at the time, and my friends used to sort of laugh at me and stuff, you know. But it always reminds me of, it's my Cheese Whiz song. I just thought that was quite interesting.
They say the blues went out of style.
Hi, I'm Colin Blunstone. I'm lead singer with the Zombies, and I just wanted to say that the Zombies have always been huge fans of the Everly Brothers. And in fact, the first record I ever bought, and it was a 78, so that gives you some idea of how long ago I'm talking about. The first record I ever bought was Dream, and backed by Claudette, a wonderful old Everly Brothers classic. And I bought this 78 record for a girl that I really liked at the time. And she took that record with great gratitude and joy, and I never saw her or the record again.
As for the fella that sang and played guitar on it, here's Don Everly again, remembering the influence of Chet Atkins.
I remember Boudleaux had written the song Dream, and he sang it for me, and I said, that's a good song, but I said, I don't know whether we should do a ballad or not. You know, I was really conscious of our record thing. It was that we had Bye Bye Love, and then I had the intro to Susie before he wrote the song. And he wrote that song, and I said, hey, that might fit this thing. And I've been thinking about, I had the arrangement already done for that song when he came up with the song. And but then Dream came along, and I didn't know what it was. I said, I need something. So I asked Chet. Chet had an instrumental, a guitar record that he had put a thing on called Tremola. he'd invented it, or made it, done it. The guitar goes up and down in volume, that kind of thing. I said, can we use it? And he's on Dream. And he said, well, after I get my record done, so he cut his record and he let me use it. And so I've used that on Dream. That helped it, I think. But the song itself stood really the test of time, I guess.
Dream, 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 dream when I want you in my arms, when I want you, and all your charms whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream when I feel blue in the night and I need you to hold me tight whenever I want you. All I have to do is dream. I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine anytime, night or day. Only trouble is, gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. I need you so that I could die. I love you so, and that is why whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream. I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine anytime, night or day. Only trouble is, gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. I need you so that I could die. I love you so, and that is why whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream.
What an amazing record. All I Have to Do Is Dream. #1 for 5 weeks in the States and 7 in the UK, where it was the best-selling single of 1958, and by then, the Everleys were making their mark on record buyers everywhere.
I'm Rupert Blake. I live in West Sussex. I've been an Everly Brothers fan since 1958, when I was 12, which ages me a bit. The only artist, if I can call it that I'd really taken much notice of before that was Lonnie Donegan. And of course that was a very acoustic sound. Although he was English, it was a kind of American folk songs given the English treatment. And I think that's partly why I took to the Everleys. It was an acoustic sound, but of course with the fantastic harmonies. And it just set them apart from the Cliff Richards and Marty Wards and all the others that we were bombarded with at the time. It was just totally different. When I started digging into their history about how they'd been on their mum and dad's radio show, and I didn't even know, for example, they'd actually made a record back in 1955. That completely passed me by. But yeah, I started digging into their history, and then I was getting into people like Chet Atkins through them as well. And that's, if you're talking about influences, I mean, obviously Chet was a huge influence on the Everleys, but the Everleys were a huge influence on me because they were getting me into that kind of thing. Chet Atkins, James Burton, and all that sort of thing, which I probably wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
Coming soon, Alan Clark of the Hollies on his debt to the Everleys, and Colin Blunstone chooses his favourite by Phil and Don. Now, future British guitar virtuoso Albert Lee would later become a very important part of the Everleys story. Back then, he was just a fan like everyone else.
I loved it. It was country, but it was rock and roll, and that really attracted me at that time. I loved the bare bones rock and roll like Little Richard, but hearing the Everly Brothers with that country influence in their voice and the great harmonies and Don's fantastic rhythm guitar playing, they just immediately caught my ear.
In Manchester, it was the same for Alan Clark, the childhood friend of Graham Nash, both inspired by the Everleys to become founder members of the Hollies.
It was by love, by the Everly Brothers, and we'd never heard anything like that before. It was just absolutely fantastic. to hear somebody else doing what we were doing. You know, because Graham and I had been singing harmony since we were 6 years old, and as a duo, and it just took us back so much that we fell in love with the Everly Brothers straight away.
And the hits just kept on coming. The follow-up to Dream is an all-time favourite of Colin Blunstone.
Oh, well, the first one that comes to mind for me is Hey Bird Dog, get off of mine. Was that called Bird Dog? I love that, yeah.
Johnny is a joker, he's a bird, a very funny joker, he's a bird, but when he jokes my honey, he's a dog, his joking ain't so funny, what a dog. Johnny is a joker that's trying to steal my baby, he's a bird dog. Johnny sings a love song like a bird, sings the sweetest love song you ever heard, but when he sings to my gal, what a howl. To me he's just a wolf dog on the prowl. Johnny wants to fly away and puppy love my baby, he's a bird dog. Hey bird dog, get away from my quail. Hey bird dog, you're on the wrong trail. Bird dog, you better leave my lovely love alone. Hey bird dog, get away from my chick. Hey bird dog, you better get away quick. Bird dog, you better find a chicken little of your own. Johnny kissed the teacher, he's a bird. He tiptoed up to reach her, he's a bird. Well, he's the teacher's pet now, he's a dog. All he wants he can get now, what a dog. He even made the teacher let him sit next to my baby, he's a bird dog. Hey bird dog, get away from my quail. Hey bird dog, you're on the wrong trail. Bird dog, you better leave my lovely love alone. Hey bird dog, get away from my chick. Hey bird dog, you better get away quick. Bird dog, you better find a chicken little of your own. He's a bird.
Yet another classic that's featured on the new Very Best of the Everly Brothers album, and another American number one from 1958, Bird Dog. And in their extraordinary run of double A-sided hits, this was on the flip side.
Darling, you can count on me till the sun dries up the sea. Until then, I'll always be devoted to you.
Devoted to You made a particular mark on two young Everly's record buyers. First, Sue Hargreaves.
One song that probably I did a lot of courting to was Devoted to You, and that had a big impact on me. It was always one of my favourites. You relate songs to the time, and that was just one of the songs that always touched me and had deep meaning.
And then Rupert Blake.
Everyone thinks of Phil as the harmony singer, which he was, but they both sing harmony, you know. There are some songs like Devoted to You where actually it's Don that's singing the harmony, Phil's singing the lead, and Don is the natural harmony singer. It just so happens that Phil's got the slightly higher voice, and that's the way it worked out. Don always referred to himself as the lead singer.
River, it will flow. It can't die because I'm so devoted to you. I'll never hurt you. I'll never lie. I'll never be untrue. I'll never give you reason to cry. I'd be unhappy if you were blue.
Coming up, more Everly's memories from Rick Wakeman.
They wrote great songs, and the songs are your legacy. It's not them themselves, it's what they created.
Kiki Dee.
Their songs, of course, have been covered, haven't they, by lots of great artists.
And many more. You're listening to the Everly Brothers, Perfect Harmony.
To you.
This is Magic. Magic.
Just great songs. Magic.
Same old way. Think about the love that burns within my heart for you. The good times we had before you went away. Oh, me. Walk right back to me this minute. Bring your love to me, don't send it. I'm so lonesome every day.
From the Everly Brothers' huge catalogue of hits, there's Walk Right Back, written by Sonny Curtis, the man who also wrote the famous hits I Fought the Law and More Than I Can Say. Here's Don Everly talking about what he and his brother Phil achieved that his father and his brothers couldn't.
My father said he couldn't work with his brothers. He told me, he said, I couldn't work with, he had two brothers. They were the first Everly Brothers. He sang with them for a while. They said they would never do what he thought they should do, vice versa, I guess, but he couldn't work with them. So he said, you guys stick together and you'll make it. So I took it to heart and I was working at it.
The second generation Everly Brothers were frequent visitors to Europe, where they thrilled fans both with their shows and their friendly, accessible attitude. Albert Lee would go on to be the guitar kingpin in the Everly's band for many years. But his first encounter with Phil and Don was in the early 60s too.
I first met the Everly Brothers, I met Phil in 1962. I was playing a club in Chelsea, or Fulham actually, and their guitar player and drummer came into the club and heard our band playing, and we got to chatting afterwards, and we were curious to know who they were with, so we're with the Everly Brothers, and of course my heart sank, I thought, wow, the Everly Brothers. Anyway, at that point, Don had become sick and had flown back to LA, and Phil had to continue the tour on his own with the bass player singing harmony with him, which wouldn't have happened in later years, but it did happen on that tour. So they had a rehearsal, and I went along to rehearsal, and I met up with Phil, and he was really charming, but a very nice man, and he always was, And I remember playing his Gibson guitar. It was in his hotel room at Savoy, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. One of my dream guitars. It's a black Gibson with the big white pickguards. In actual fact, it was years later when I was working with Don, he knew how much I loved his version of this guitar, that he actually gave it to me, so I actually have one of Don's guitars.
Here's Colin Blunstone of the Zombies.
I always sang, even as a young boy, I sang all the time. And I think a lot of people who lived near me in Hatfield and Hertfordshire actually thought I was a bit crazy, because I would be walking along the road and it looked like I was talking to myself. But really I was singing, so I loved to sing songs. That's how you learnt to sing, singing along with the people that you really, really liked. And the Everly Brothers were always close to the top of my favourites.
I hide the tears that wait within.
They had such wonderfully matching voices, and the harmonies were so striking. They weren't always the obvious harmony that you would expect, and they were just the best, absolutely the best.
And Gilbert O'Sullivan.
So my story on Cathy's Clown is that because I'm young and naive, I don't know too much about what's going on in the world. I didn't understand the term Cathy's Clown. I always thought it was called Cathy's Clown. So now you tell me what I was listening to. It sounded great, but I didn't have a clue that it was Cathy's Clown. In other words, the lyrics didn't necessarily get through to me. It's interesting, in a lot of the great pop music that I love, it isn't necessarily the lyrics that are winning me over. It's always the melody and the performance. And the Everly Brothers are just absolutely brilliant.
Don't want your love anymore. Oh, and he knows you tell lies, and he lets them pass him by. He's not a man at all. Don't want your love anymore. Don't want your kisses, that's for sure. I die each time I hear this sound. Here he comes, that's Kathy's clown. When you see me shed a tear, and you know that it's sincere, don't you think it's kind of sad that you're treating me so bad, or don't you even care? Don't want your love anymore. Don't want your kisses, that's for sure. I die each time I hear this sound. Here he comes, that's Kathy's clown. That's Kathy's clown.
And so the Everleys went into the 1960s just as they ended the 50s, at the top of the American charts again with Kathy's Clown. Now let's say hello to another big star who made his name with rock music on a grand scale, but he, like so many others, started off as a humble Everleys fan. It's Rick Wakeman.
The first time I ever heard the Everly Brothers, it was in the 60s, obviously, and I was in Exmouth in Devon on holiday. I was in Walworth, and they used to blast out records in Walworth at that time. And on this came, and it was Temptation from the Everly Brothers. And what stood out was the production. It was just so full. It was enormous. Unlike anything else that was really going on in the sort of British production at the time, you could just hear everything going on. It was just huge. And I used up my 5 bob or 4 and 11 pence as it was, and bought it. Just a great record. I've still got it. Still got the single. So that would be my favourite. Because it was unpoppy. I was never a great pop song lover. In fact, they used to annoy me a bit sometimes. And they did write some great pop songs. But Temptation was something. If you play a lot of Everly Brothers tracks and throw Temptation in the middle of it, it sticks out like a sore thumb, but in a nice way. So, yeah, that would undoubtedly be my favourite.
You
From 1961, Temptation, a fond memory for Rick Wakeman.
The Everleys then, I suppose, for us young musicians and young people, young teenagers and things, they were from this amazing country called America. I never saw them perform ever, although I know they did come to England, they did perform around everywhere. But it was this different market. America was, in its own way, ahead of us in many respects. We hadn't really taken over. And the Everly Brothers had this knack of writing great songs and being this all-American duo that looked the part. And I didn't play the guitar, but I know that very few people played a lot of the Everly's songs in the UK because most of the acoustic guitarists at that time didn't know that many chords, because the Everly Brothers songs had a few extra chords in, which was great. But no, they were a huge influence.
As we heard earlier, the Everleys were always respectful and grateful to their fans. Here's longtime admirer Sue Hargreaves again.
I'd seen them also at a festival in Grangemouth in Scotland just before they split up in late 72, early 73. It was a festival actually in Grangemouth, and I think there was snow on the ground. We lived in Dundee at the time, and I went with some friends, and it was just amazing, really. The last time we toured together, I think, in this country was 2005. I did see them in Oslo with Simon and Garfunkel. They were special guests when they did a reunion tour. My friend and I went over to see them there, which was the Gay Magic. I met Don walking down Princes Street in Edinburgh when I was wearing an Everly Brothers t-shirt. We sort of stopped and stared at each other, and he pointed at my t-shirt, and I said, you know, you stand there open-mouthed. But no, that was nice. And then after that, I sort of they began to know who I was, and the last time I saw them and sort of to speak to, they were on tour in the UK, and I went to Glasgow to the first concert, and we got invited to a Peter Blake exhibition, and during the exhibition they came in and they were really, gave us a hug, and they were really friendly.
I'll never let you see the way my broken heart is hurting me. I've got my pride and I know how to hide all my sorrow and pain. I'll do my crying in the rain. If I wait for cloudy skies, you won't know the rain from the tears in my eyes. You'll never know that I still love you so, though the heartaches remain. I'll do my crying in the rain. Raindrop falling from heaven could never wash away my misery. But since we're not together, I look for stormy weather to hide these tears I hope you'll never see.
One of the countless Everly songs that later became hits again for other artists. When a-ha remade Crying in the Rain, James Taylor and Art Garfunkel did it too. Bryan Ferry did The Price of Love. Everything But the Girl cut Love is Strange. There are loads of them. Here's one that Kiki Dee picks out for us.
Their songs, of course, have been covered, haven't they, by lots of great artists. I think the track Gone, Gone, Gone is it the same song, I think? I'm asking you, actually. I think it's the same song that's on the Robert Plant, Alison Krauss album, Raising Sand, that won the Grammy in 2008.
Sunny day, baby, when everything seems okay, baby, you wake up and find that you're alone, 'cause I'll be gone, 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 really gone.
the one that you meet, baby. As you walk down the street, baby, will ask you why you're walking all alone, why you're on your own. Just say I'm gone, 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 gone. Don't move, don't, 'cause you done me wrong. Change your way, baby. You might get me to stay, baby. Better hurry up if you don't want to be alone, or I'll be gone. Gone, gone, gone. Really gone. Don't move, don't, 'cause you done me wrong.
As updated by Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, but it's another Everly's original, Gone, Gone, Gone. Don Everly says he's eternally grateful for the loyal support the duo always received from British audiences and from the UK music business.
What I found was they were more accepting of the music we were doing. We had a problem with the people in the business here in the States. Always the interviews would be, well, what are you going to do when it's over? You know, like it was going to end next week. The people that ran the business said, oh, that's fun music for the kids, you know, or they didn't look like it as bad influence and everything. So they weren't judgmental about it. And so they gave the music right to live. And it was wonderful.
This is American country superstar Brad Paisley.
And harmony that's like brothers. It's the harmony of brothers is a really interesting thing. The Gatlin brothers had it, but they had three. They had an advantage in that sense. But it's like that crazy two voices that are genetically similar, and it's wild. And they were kind of the first of their kind that way, really, you know, that had that thing, and people couldn't get enough. I think it just completely was the revolution in harmony. People weren't doing those tight harmonies like that. I got to see them actually a few times play when I was growing up, when they came through West Virginia and played a show, and they had this guy named Albert Lee playing guitar for them for forever, you know. I went for that. I was like, I'm going because there's going to be this guy playing this red guitar that I think's unbelievable, and he's a buddy of mine now.
Albert Lee, mentioned there by Brad, went on to be one of the prime movers behind the Everly's reunion concerts at the Royal Albert Hall in 1983, and played with them for years afterwards.
Yeah, the reunion concert with the Everly Brothers was such a great event. We'd rehearsed in London for about 4 or 5 days, and of course most of the guys in the band knew the songs anyway, and I think the Everlys had gotten together a little while before that just to see if they still sounded good, you know. Of course they did. I remember that first day's rehearsal, we actually came in the second day and someone had broken into the rehearsal studios and stole half of our equipment. And how they got it out of there, I've no idea, because there was like an 8-foot wall that they lifted a huge amplifier over, but we did get it back. And anyway, the shows were great. We actually did 2 nights, and we were going to do a warm-up gig somewhere, and they decided against that. They said, no, it's got to be the show, the Royal Albert Hall. That should be the first show. And it was just fantastic, you know. The spotlights went on, and each of the brothers walked down the stairs either side of the stage and met in the middle of the stage, you know, and of course the crowd went wild. It was a very, very special night.
Everly's fan, Roland J.
I can actually remember the first Everly Brothers record I bought, and because I didn't have a record player, it was a long time before I actually bought a record. So the first Everly Brother record I bought was in December 1962, and it was called No One Can Make My Sunshine Smile. That was the moment I started buying them, and I've still got the record, and it's now a rather dog-eared sleeve, but I wouldn't part with it.
And Justin Hayward.
No One Can Make My Sunshine Smile was I think that was on Warner Brothers, and that had the first time that anybody I'd heard had turned the bass drum beat round. So it went boom, bum, bum, boom, bum, bum. Whereas most drummers before that would go boom, boom, boom.
No one can make my sunshine smile. She goes out 7 nights a week.
but she's unhappy all the while. Each night a different guy does his very best to try, but no one can make my sunshine smile. My sunshine used to smile for me, but then she traded me for style. Now she's got Romeos who buy her fancy clothes, but no one can make my sunshine smile.
The music of the Everly Brothers will last as long as pop music itself. Here's Rick Wakeman.
We're still talking about the Everly Brothers because of their music. In the nicest sense, the music will live long after, you know, what the Everly Brothers are. I mean, when you play Everly Brothers music to somebody, if you wanted to play it, they wouldn't say, oh, can I see a picture of them? You know, actually what they looked like and what they did is totally immaterial. They wrote great songs, and the songs are your legacy. It's not them themselves. It's what they created. So that's why we're listening to them now, and why we'll be listening to them in another 50 years and probably another 100 years, because the music is the legacy, and that's what lives on.
Colin Blunstone.
It was amazing, the reaction to his death, you know, the great sadness that he died so young, but also the thanks for all the beautiful music that they've given us, because they have made a very, very important contribution to modern music. With some records, you know they're only going to have a 6-week lifespan, but with classic artists like the Everly Brothers, you know that music's going to go on forever.
And a final song choice from Don Everly.
The song we had, the ballad that we did that I think became the most famous for us here in the States or over in England too would be Let It Be Me, which we closed the show with.
I bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you, and so I beg you, let it be me. Don't take this heaven from one if you must cling to someone now and forever. Let it be me. Each time we meet, love, I find complete love. Without your sweet love, what would life be? So never leave me lonely. Tell me you love me only, and that you'll always let it be me. Each time we meet, love, I find complete love. Without your sweet love, what would life be?
Let It Be Me by the everlasting Everlys.
I think when we were singing really good and when the things were working for us, we were the best. You know, that's what I felt, you know.
I'm Mark Goodyear. The Everly Brothers' Perfect Harmony was written and produced by Paul Sexton. It was a Wise Buddha production.
Let it be me.